Hello, everyone, and we continue our series as we get a chance to meet many of the other personnel behind the scenes, but very important people to our athletics program. And today I'm delighted to have a young lady who's been here at James Madison since 2013, working on the athletic training staff. She is assistant athletics trainer working with women's soccer, Leah Schoen. Leah, thank you very much for joining us here today. And what we want to do to begin with is get a little of your background. You're from Florida. Went to the University of Florida, but why athletic training? Why this area?
When I was younger, I was a gymnast, and all throughout like middle school, high school, I did gymnastics. And I actually kind of like why most people get into athletic training. I got hurt my senior year as a gymnast, and my coach was actually an athletic trainer. And athletic training wasn't very big. We had one in my high school, but it wasn't a very well-known career at the time. And so she actually helped me get back to doing gymnastics. And so it was interesting working with her and seeing what she did. And then when I went over to the University of Florida, I was trying to look at what major I wanted to go into. And they decided that athletic training would be perfect. I love sports and I love to help people. And it just stuck from there.
It'd be interesting now that you say that. I have done a lot of interviews with athletic trainers, and many of them have started because of injuries that they incurred. And then they found out about this career. So I think we need to do a national survey. So the next time you go to a convention, I'd like for you to find out how many started because they were former student athletes whose career came to an end. I mean, I'm in this profession because I couldn't hit a curveball, nor could I swim very fast. So I had to find some other way to get involved. Now, you went to your Florida Gator, graduated there from UF there in Gainesville, so in the swamp. I know we've got some students that have gone down there and continued their career. But after that, what was your path to get to James Madison?
So I graduated from University of Florida, and then I actually stayed on staff after I got certified, and I worked with their cheer and dance team, which was really cool. Like the one fun fact is, and I don't know if it's ever happened again, but their football team and basketball team both won the national championship in that same academic year. And I actually got to go with the cheer and dance team. So that was a very fun experience. And then I went and got my master's at University of Central Florida and started working soccer there. And then did that for 2 years, and then actually got hired on staff there and continued working women's soccer, but then also worked men's and women's tennis as well.
Now, when the position opened up here at James Madison, it was 2013, I believe, is when you first came across. Why did you? Well, you were there on staff full time at Central Florida. What was it that coaxed you to come north? I mean, here you are, a Sunshine State gal, and you decide to come, which many north of Virginia think of Virginia being south. We think it more of it mid-Atlantic. But what brought you north, Leah?
So I really wanted to work just women's soccer. And so when I was at University of Central Florida, I was working women's soccer and men's and women's tennis. And I just felt that I was working year round, and just the standard of care for the athletes over there was pretty tough, just working multiple sports, being in season with multiple teams, and just trying to do what I wanted to do with the athletes was hard, just because I didn't have just one team I was focusing on. I had three. So I started looking for jobs that just had women's soccer only. And when JMU popped up, I was like, oh, this is neat. I never heard of Harrisonburg, Virginia. I heard of JMU. So I just decided to see what it was about. And ever since coming here on my interview, I fell in love with the campus, university, all the staff and everything like that.
Well, I would imagine Gainesville, a college town, Harrisonburg, a college town, where you grew up there in the greater Miami area, certainly not a college town, much more. So it is a little different, but you seem to have adjusted. And one thing I'm going to kind of kid with you, you've adjusted to running up and down hills here in Harrisonburg, as that is one of your pastimes, I trust.
Yeah, no, I love to run, and coming here, running the hills, I was like, oh man, I'm never going to be able to do that. But now I do it all the time.
Why did soccer become the sport that you specialized in, Leah?
I really like the athlete itself, or the athlete that works soccer or that plays soccer. And I definitely wanted to work on the female side. And I just feel like a soccer athlete they're mentally tough, they're physically strong, and just like it's always there's always something going on. And I joke around with Josh that I have really good job security. But it's just yeah, it's a fun sport, and just the type of athlete and mentality and physicality that it takes to play the sport is fun for me.
When you go back and you look at the history of athletic training and just sports injuries, and now, of course, with our integrated program here of being integrated health and sports performance, we try to prevent as many injuries as possible. That is one of the primary care aspects of what you do. But the profession has changed in a lot of ways. I was kidding with one of your colleagues that one of my early experiences was you heard somebody on courtside yell, "Trainer, trainer," because the only time you heard about them was for an injury. But it's a lot different now. So one of the question I'm getting to is, how has training in general, in what is the first part of your career, how has it changed?
Definitely has. There's a lot more technology that can be utilized to help the athlete now. So, for instance, we actually have GPS units that we use, and I actually now run them. We did have a sports scientist that helped us run it, but now it kind of was handed to me, which I actually love doing because it's so important to see all the different metrics that the athletes do throughout practice. So it's not just we're going to go out and play. We're going to make sure we're running our high intensity sprints, our make sure our distance is good, making sure they have a good amount of accelerations, decelerations. And so for me, it's important that at each practice that I'm monitoring that and making sure afterwards that we kind of accomplished all the different things that we needed to accomplish kind of on the sports med side, sports science side for that. And so back when I was growing up, we really didn't have any of those things. And now it's more commonplace than anything. And so we're lucky here at JMU that we have that to utilize and help the athletes get better.
Yeah, and one thing that has to help, and I'm sure that Josh Walters and the coaching staff really appreciates this too, because if you think about it, when you were playing, really the only sample size that you had was the games themselves. But now you can certainly simulate so many more things in a practice and get data that is going to help you translate into what a coach is going to decide in a game with his player personnel. Knowing when and where they can be pushed, how they can enter and come out of games, and how that all kind of plays into the strategy and the tactics of the sport of soccer, which is, the margin for error in soccer, which is one of the things I think that is very exciting about it, but maybe sometimes not, is, the margin of error is so small that so many details can go into it. Because of that data that certainly you were patching up players or keeping them healthy. Do you feel like you're much more an extension of the coaching staff even more because of that data that you provide to them?
Yeah, I think so. We actually can watch their GPS units live, so we can see how many sprints someone's doing in a game or distance they're covering, and also look at their heart rate and see if anyone, their heart rates aren't recovering as fast as they could. So Josh has been good at, sometimes we'll sub people based upon what their data is telling us. So that has helped going forward with games and things like that. And the important thing with the data is that it gives us also a baseline of what the girls could do at the beginning. And then you watch them grow throughout their 4 years, and they get faster. They can do more high intensity sprints, more accelerations, decels, all that sort of stuff. So it's important, and it's good that we have that part to help us with training.
Well, we are visual learners, and if you can give them those visual numbers, it probably helps them to feel like, because it's tough to understand where you're making some progress. And so with that, do you wear one of those GPSs yourself when you're running the hills here in Harrisonburg?
I know. I was thinking about it because they sat with me during quarantine. I was nervous to just leave them by themselves in the office, so I took them home with me, but I never did. But the good thing, for me with the GPS units, is I can help have an athlete return to play better just by knowing the data of what they were beforehand.
Yeah, less guesswork and more fact. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So Leah, if this is for an opportunity to introduce you to recruits or maybe even a new freshman, but I'm sure by now you've got a chance to meet and talk with all of them. But if you lump that group together, what would be an important message as if you're scheduled to meet with a recruit as their athletic trainer? What message would you give to them?
Just to make sure that they're making sure that they're strong. They're strengthening their quads, their hamstrings, their glutes, pretty much their whole body, and and also paying a lot of attention, obviously, to their fitness levels. But just as long, like making sure they come in they're kind of at their like peak, per se, just to make sure they don't get injured. We don't want them injured on their first day here. So you don't want them to overtrain. So it's almost finding the fine line of being at your peak when you step foot on the pitch here at JMU.
Well, if you want to play, you better be ready because, I mean, it's a short turnaround. Now, this year is certainly quite different. The one thing that is happening is that women's soccer, men's soccer, all these fall sports are having an opportunity to acclimate themselves with the programs over a longer period of time, where before they would come in late July, early August, and by mid-August, late August, they're playing games. And if they're freshmen, it's a totally new experience. But also trying to kind of qualify what you're saying there too, is that the speed of the game is so much different at the collegiate level. You've got to be ready to go right away. I'm sure that you emphasize. So when a recruit signs with JMU, how much are you in contact with them from the time that they've signed their national letter of intent? They are ours, and then they come on campus.
Yeah, so I usually touch base with them probably right after, a couple weeks after their signing date. And we just send them our information and let them know that they can utilize us if they need anything. And then we start sending them their physical packets, and that asks all different injury history or different histories for anything that they could have had in their past. And just finding out all that information and then giving them things that if they need to work on to get stronger, or making sure they're utilizing a strength coach at home or their soccer coach at home, and just making sure they come here. Like, it's more that we want to make sure they're here and they're not injured coming in, or they're able to withstand the training, just because it's right from preseason, we're just going.
Yeah, you get on that treadmill, you go, go, go. I mention that quite often. We did mention the integrated health and sports performance program. So Leah, how many, what would be common other folks that you might get in touch with or work with on a pretty regular basis? You're the specialist as the athletics trainer for this program, but who else and what other areas within that whole comprehensive package do you find yourself tapping into as resources the most?
Yeah, I definitely work a lot with Robbie, our strength coach, to help if a player does get injured. We work really well together on making sure that athlete is strong and able to return to their full capacity when they come back. We also have Lauren Hartman, our team dietitian, who we have the girls reach out to if they need help with that. And then we work well with Dr. Bob, and then also Melinda Fox at the counseling center too, just to make sure that their overall well-being is being taken care of, because a lot of the athletes focus on their physical health, but their mental health is also really important. And sometimes the mental health can hold them back from being their best more than their physical health. So we make sure we take care of the whole person as well, not just like focus on an injury, but rather the whole well-being of that.
Yeah, and as a commentator and storyteller, observation is very key for me. It's actually that quiet time to observe and see what's happening out there, and then relay that through communication tools. Leah, in your position, you're probably, you and the coaches are number one in observing these student athletes, because you're in the day-to-day contact with them as kind of that point of, from there is where you kind of fan out to get those other resources. So your radar always has to be engaged.
Yeah. Always.
All right. Some other things I do want to ask you, just to kind of get back to who Leah is. And pardon me, I had to stop an alarm that was going there. We're still good to talk here. These Apple Watches, they keep you going all the time. That was unendorsed, by the way. But if we think about, what else does Leah do? We talked about running. I didn't save that to the end. But when you find yourself in a little downtime, a little leisure time, what does Leah like to do?
Well, I love to run because I always feel that's my time to kind of think about the day or what's going to happen during the day and stuff like that. I like to play with my dog.
Do you put GPS on the dog?
Yeah. And then just be with family when I can is important.
Do you have a typical time of year? Do you go back to Florida very often?
Thanksgiving, and then probably over winter break, I'll go down there. And then my family will usually come up in the summer because now that
Sounds great.
yeah.
Sounds great. You go to Florida when it's cold, and you come to Virginia when it's hot. So
Yes. Now that I live in Virginia, I'm soft to the heat, so I have them come visit me in the summer.
Very good. Very good. Well, here you've got the four seasons. Sometimes we can't recognize them either, but it's certainly, that's one reason I'm a native Virginian and I enjoy those four seasons when they cooperate with us and we actually have those four seasons. Leah, thank you so very much for joining us. Thank you for your service. It's been a delight to work with you, to be a peer here at James Madison University. And we look forward to getting back out there on the pitch with the Dukes and enjoying some more soccer games at Centera Park.
Yeah, thank you.